guys, I'm Charlie, book fanatic. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do a book review for Rejected Princesses. The book is set to come out on October 25th and it is by Porath, who also runs a website called rejectedprincesses.com, where other stories about amazing badass women throughout history are shared. This book is exactly that. It is a compilation of 97 incredible women who did some very unbelievable things, and most of the women mentioned in this book I did not even know about, and I am so glad I read it because it was a truly masterful and incredible piece of literature, and it shared a lot of stories about incredible Asian and black women and bisexual women, lesbian women, transgender women, and I loved that. All of the different kinds of women in this book and their stories, even though some of them were kind of cruel and brutal and very hard to read about, and some women I didn't support their actions, but they still did some very unbelievable things. This book also had some beautiful illustrations. For every single woman in this book there was a cartoonish illustration that had relevant aspects of their life in it, and their appearance matched the descriptions of their appearances throughout history. And I love how much time and effort had gone into these illustrations. But for the rest of this video, I'm not really going to talk about what I thought about this book, but I'm going to share some of the women in this book that I thought were remarkable. What I loved that the author did with this book is, at the beginning of the book, he gave a rating to all of these stories. These stories go from being able to be read by a youth to being able to read by mature audiences. So it had a rating scale from 1 through 4, and 1 was for youth and then 4 was really mature. And there were also these letters in the sidebar that said if there was abuse or violence or rape in the story, for all of the triggers basically. So if you can't stand to read rape in the story, you just have to look at the sidebar and you can see if there's rape in that story or there isn't. And I thought that was a very thoughtful and amazing thing to do. I want to talk about Grace O'Malley, who was an Irish pirate queen. I don't want to talk to her about her too much, but I love some of the facts that were in this book about her. I especially loved at the fact that she tied a cable from the mast of her main ship to her bedpost so nobody would run off with her ship. And the second thing that I loved about Grace O'Malley was that in marriage they had a trial year. So there was a year, and in that year you could see if you wanted to get a divorce or you wanted to continue on with that marriage. After that year, it was traditional for women to get back some of their dowry. She decided to take her husband's castle because it was a second marriage. She wasn't allowed to have a return of her dowry, so she took one for herself because she's a badass. The third woman I want to talk about is Annie Jump Cannon. She lived from 1863 to 1941 and was born in the United States. And she was an astronomer. Her mother took her up to the attic and made her look at the stars, which is amazing. That is how she got her love for stars. And her parents actually sent her to college, and she got a degree in astronomy in grad school. When she was 33, she became Harvard Computer, and the Harvard Computers were basically an all-female group of astronomy analysts. She came up with her own classification system of stars, and she could classify up to 3 stars a minute. And in her whole lifetime, she classified 350,000 stars. Annie became an ambassador for professional women everywhere, and she started talking at all of these conferences. She worked 7 days a week up until the age of 76, and at that point heart disease took her life. The next woman I want to talk about I was especially surprised by, and that is Wilma Rudolph, who lived from 1940 to 1994 and was born in the United States. She was an Olympic runner who beat polio. Her family was very poor when she was growing up. She had contracted a lot of diseases before she was even 7 years old. Polio took away her ability to walk. By the age of 20, she became a 3-time Olympic medal winner. And she was an unwed teen mother as well. Wilma had her family. Her family supported her constantly in everything she did, and that was her biggest strength. Teammates saw Wilma as a threat, and they started doing mean things to her. They were the biggest bullies ever, basically. She retired from running, married a high school sweetheart, and she settled down. She died of brain cancer at the age of 54. Marie Marvin was born in 1875 and she lived up until 1963. She was born in France and the subtitle is The Fiancée of Danger. And I marked her up because she did amazing things. She did so many amazing things and I want to read it. I want to read how the writer wrote about her because I think it was so funny. Are you the sort of person who got mad when you learned Mozart composed his first symphony at age 5? Do kids who graduate from college before they're old enough to drive make you angry? Prepare to get furious. So let's share some of these Olympic amazing feats with you. She swam 4 kilometers by the age of 4. She learned gymnastics with the circus and managed to ride a horse with inaudible commands. She dominated 1908 and 1910 Olympics, luge and bobsledding. She became proficient at cycling, tennis, golf, polo, jiu-jitsu, boxing, shooting, fencing, swimming, mountain climbing, and ballooning. She finished 36th in 1908 Tour de France and she wasn't even allowed to enter. She climbed a mountain that only 2 men before her had ever climbed. She sailed a balloon from Paris to England in the middle of a storm. And in 1910 she won a medal for all sports. All sports. Marie Marvin is best known for her interest in aviation, or basically flying a plane. She became the 3rd woman in the world to get a pilot's license. After she got her pilot's license, she actually joined the army. She disguised herself as a foot soldier at the front, but that wasn't the only thing she did. She carried food to troops on skis. She helped with evacuation. She trained as a nurse. She even assisted in wartime surgery. Oh, and she also invented a surgical suture device. And she also became the first female bomber ever, which was 86. So she basically biked from Nancy to Paris, which is just 400 kilometers. Oh, and it was also winter and she did it just for fun. She would go eat at restaurants and pay her bill with autographs. She studied law and medicine. She achieved fluency in 4 languages. And she became an accomplished singer, actress, author, painter, and sculptor. Like, she did everything ever in the world, and it makes me feel really incompetent. And she died in a nursing home at age 88. She basically died of old age. She had the most amazing life ever. Julie Lamopin d'Aubigny lived from 1670 to 1707 and was born in France. A sword slinger who burned down a convent to bang a nun. I think this is literally the most amazing story in the entire book. And the author describes her as sword slinger, opera singer, and larger-than-life bisexual celebrity of 17th century France. Lamopin, which was her opera name, left her home to wander through France, and she earned her living through singing and dueling demonstrations, and she was usually dressed as a man. Someone actually said to her she was a man and not a woman. She tore off her shirt and simply showed him that she was. At the time, she had a lover, but she became bored too soon, and she dumped him and went for a local merchant's daughter. The merchant wanted to split them up and sent his daughter to a convent, upon which Lamopin joined the convent as well, and burned it down so she could be with the now non-lover she had. They eloped, and after 3 months, Lamopin got bored and dumped her wife. Lamopin was therefore sentenced to death, but Louis XIV actually pardoned her. Lamopin took advantage of this and became an opera singer. All of this took place before she was even 20. Eventually, Lamopin was forced to run off to Brussels because Louis XIV didn't want to punish her because she amused him. But he did have to do something, because she actually seduced a woman at a royal ball was thrown by Louis XIV or his brother, and the 3 suitors of the women didn't really like that. And eventually she even kissed the woman in full view of everyone. Whereupon the 3 men actually challenged her to a duel, and she won. 5 or 6 years later, Lamopin returned to France, and she died at the age of 37 due to unknown causes. And the last woman I want to talk about, I don't really know how to pronounce her name, but it's Noor Inayat Khan. She lived from 1914 to 1944, and she was born in France, and she's called the Spy Princess. She was a British secret agent during the Second World War, and she worked as a radio operator in occupied Paris. And in fact, she was working as the only radio operator because every single spy in Paris was caught except for her. She was incompetent in basically everything she did, and so nobody expected her to join the war effort. But she did, and she managed to be actually good at it, even though she was really bad at lying. Also, she didn't even like Great Britain, which she definitely said in an interview. In test interrogation, she actually tensed up and started muttering to herself, which didn't make her a good candidate physically or psychologically, but she managed to pull it off eventually. On top of all this, she managed to outrun the Gestapo for nearly 5 months by changing her looks and her clothing on a nearly daily basis. All the while she had to work with nearly 6 people, and she managed to last 3 times as long as a standard radio operator. She was eventually caught when a double agent betrayed her to the Nazis. Hours into her imprisonment, she made her first escape attempt. She did so by demanding a bath and then climbing up onto the roof and trying to escape. She got caught. After that, she tried to seem compliant while she lied to the Germans over and over and over again while plotting her second escape attempt. But just as she left her cell, the British actually made a surprise air raid. The guards did an unexpected check of the cells, and they found her running across the roof again. She was then classified as extremely dangerous, was shackled and kept in a solitary cell. Before this, her interrogations were friendly, but now they were reduced to physical violence. But she never revealed anything. One day she was taken to a Dachau concentration camp with 3 other prisoners. These 3 other prisoners were shot upon arrival, but they gave her an extra day, and every single hour was just brutal violence. According to the other prisoners, the last word she screamed was liberté, which means freedom. She ended up being 30 years old. These were all of the women I wanted to talk about, and just a small selection of the women that are described in this book. They are all amazing, and if you liked what I just told you, if that sounds interesting to you, I would love for you to check out this book because it is worth everything. I enjoyed it thoroughly, and I didn't expect it to, but I'm so glad I got an e-arc of this. So that was all I wanted to say about this book. I just urged you to pick it up on the release date of October 25th because I extremely enjoyed it. All the opinions here were my own, even though the publisher kindly sent me an e-arc of this, but I wouldn't trade it for the world because I learned so much. I'm definitely going to pick up biographies and autobiographies of these amazing women because I want to know more about them. At the end of this book, there's a bibliography with books you can refer to if you want to know more about these women. Obviously, the author took his research and his information from these books, but for every single woman, there's 1, 2, or 3 books you can look through, and I am very excited to check out this bibliography and look up the biographies of these women that I just talked about. And this is all I wanted to say, so I hope you enjoyed this review, and let me know down below if you're going to pick up this book, and if you have read it, what did you think about it? Because I would love to know. Share some of your most amazing female stories. Check out the website, rejectedprincesses.com. I would love for you to do that. So thank you for watching. Goodbye!